up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. People are as tired of Trump as I am, and I am so happy to hear about people that actually were Trump voters at one time, and now they're really speaking out and sharing why they can no longer support him. So I want to play this for you guys because I really believe that sharing stuff like this is really important. So let's just go ahead and get into this.
Kyle Sweetser is a two-time Trump voter from Alabama, publicly backed Harris, the DNC, as you just heard. Robert Nix is a former Trump voter from Pennsylvania, and they're now involved with the group Republican Voters Against Trump, put them on billboards urging their fellow Republicans not to back the former president, and they joined me now. It's good to have you gentlemen both. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Kyle, let me start with you because if I'm not mistaken, you live in Alabama, which is a pretty conservative place. Trump's going to win there by 20 points or something like that, and you are a two-time Trump voter. And I guess I tend to think people that went back the second time, 16, 20. Pretty locked in, but not you. What changed your mind?
Yeah, so I voted for Trump in 2016. I thought he was a good change of pace. I thought the people, especially down here, were not well represented. In 2018, we had those steel tariffs, and those started to affect some products. So I got to see the firsthand effects of those probably before anyone else. The inflation started then. And in 2020, after all the things that Trump said, I was actually kind of holding my nose to vote for him, kind of to beat the Democrats, that kind of thing. So I just assumed he was going to go away. I assumed it was over with, especially after January 6th. And, in 2022, when I started paying closer attention to geopolitics and what was going on in the world, I started to really look at Trump's record, especially on foreign policy and the things that he said, and his coddling of dictators and enemies, essentially the United States. And I started to look really close at his record, and he's a disaster.
Robert, you were a Trump voter, I think, in Pennsylvania in 2016, and then did vote for President Joe Biden in 2020. Is that right?
I did. I voted for Biden. I did, in fact, like Kyle said, I held my nose and I voted for Biden, but because I simply couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump. In fact, the reason I'm involved with Republican Voters Against Trump and on billboards and writing op-eds is because I think I'm trying to atone for even voting for Trump in 2016 and make up for my mistake.
And there's some people I think who would maybe sort of go from Trump and then vote for Biden. Maybe they come back in the fold or not. But you're now devoted. What was it for you that pried you away from Trump?
Well, initially, from his very first term, I began to see the problems right away with the undermining of the press, undermining of the Constitution, in particular the rule of law, in particular the checks and balances that hold our government together. He's flaunted all of that, and it looked like we were headed towards disaster, just in his first term. And then came, and then I couldn't vote for him after that, but then came the loss of 2020 where he created the big lie. He's instigated an insurrection. I thought, how can he possibly even run in 2024, much less how people could support him? So yeah, I am appalled as I watched the Republican Party that I've been involved with for 44 years, and not just as a voter, but I've run it for office as a Republican. I've helped Hispanic outreach all over the state of Pennsylvania, with Bush, going back to Bush Cheney in 2004, helping Senators Santorum and Specter with Hispanic outreach, the Republican State Committee working for them doing Hispanic outreach, and now to see what the Republican Party has been reduced to by Trump is just, it turns my stomach and it appalls me. And so yes, I could never vote for him again, and I work very hard to try to make as many people as I can aware of the problems that we're facing here. It's not the issues, it's the over problem of the destruction of our form of of government is what I fear. And then I think too many people think it's just a normal race between Democrats and Republicans, and I got to go with issues like immigration, inflation, or Israel or abortion. But those aren't. We can get by with bad policy. We can survive it, as Liz Cheney said, but we can't survive the undermining and trampling of our Constitution. That's the basis for what I believe in now.
It's so interesting to listen to you two gentlemen, because there's this kind of, I think, a little tired and trite, pundit conventional wisdom that, voters, the real voters, don't care about things like foreign policy, democracy. They care about kitchen table issues. And yet here you are both talking about how your trajectories, one talking about foreign policy, you, Robert, talking about democracy. Let me come back to you on that, Kyle, on foreign policy. It's interesting you mentioned that. Because a lot of times, again, the conventional wisdom is people don't really care that much about that. Well, what specifically was there? Was it the Ukraine war? Was there something where you started to be like, this is not right, that got you?
Yeah, so I just started to pay attention to Trump and basically his orbit and the things they say. And it was startling how they were pretty much pushing the same talking points as Russia. I started to look back at Trump's record on, S-230, trying to come after freedom of speech and tie it into funding in 2020. Just all those things and the tariffs and the trade and all that. I don't think people really understand that a lot of these things affect the prices that we have now, and they cause inflation. Yes. It's just wild that there's not enough effort to educate voters on how important foreign policy is, how important trade policy is, and really how that Trump himself has completely thrown out conservative economic and trade policies. He's not fiscally responsible. If you look at the current rate or the federal budget, I think that he's proposed is 5 times what the Democrats have proposed. That's insane. In 2020.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. You heard these people, they're former Trump voters. They're talking about policies. I truly believe that the majority of the people that are going to vote for him still are those diehard, what they call sycophants, fans, followers, worshipers of him. And everything that he stands for is, for the most part, things that are not going to help them to even be able to live, because the majority of the people that idolize him and worship him are nowhere near in the financial class that would benefit from him being in office. And that's when people vote against their own best personal interests. And the other ones, they just can't stand Kamala, can't stand, seeing a woman in power, definitely can't stand seeing someone who is not a Caucasian, having the likelihood to be able to be president. So it's like, hell yeah, I'm voting for Trump, right? And then, those ones that claim to be Christians, but the man that they are voting for represents nothing that is Christ-like. It's just absolutely insane to me, but I feel like it's important to share the voices of people who were Trump voters, who are telling the actual reasons why they are not voting for him. Listen, I'm not saying that Kamala is is a godsend, or anyone should idolize her. Anyone should not expect anything from her for their personal benefit. I'm not saying any of those things, but for the people who are constantly critiquing and saying, Kamala ain't going to do nothing for you. Kamala ain't going to do nothing for Black people. These are the same ones that never pushed for any policies when Trump was in office. Quite frankly, they definitely weren't trying to push for any policies while Kamala is in office as the vice president. And we have to be clear on the title. Vice presidents don't have the power. So when people talk about, well, why isn't Kamala, the things that she's saying, why isn't she doing those things now? She is the vice president. She does not have that power. And two, the presidents do not have all of the power. So you've got Trump, who put 3 Supreme Court justices who are extreme in their views, who pretty much believe that Donald Trump is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And they've pretty much just co-signed everything that is going to be beneficial to him and so-called Republicans. And then you have those who occupy space in Congress. If all of those things don't align, the executive branch, which is the presidency, the legislative branch, which is Congress, and the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, then the president does not have as much power as a lot of people claim that they do. This is a capitalist society. They cannot control prices on anything, and there's some things that they can put executive orders in for, but they can't dictate what private companies charge for anything. So when Donald Trump gets out here talking about people can't afford to buy bacon anymore, people can't afford this anymore, the prices on these things are up, blame the greedy companies for the corporate greed. The president doesn't control that. But I just wanted to play that, and I really want to know what you guys think, so you can let me know your thoughts. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. Because, yeah, a lot of people are tired of Trump, and there's a whole lot of people who voted for him before that are like, never again, we're not going back. So I hope we hear more voices like this. So I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.